Everest on top of the world. Everest on top of the world. Focus question. Why do people continue to explore despite great risks? Introduction. Every year, when weather conditions permit, hundreds of people with an incredible spirit of adventure start a grueling climb. It is a climb they hope will take them to the top of the world. It is a climb to the summit of the world's tallest mountain, Mount Everest. Mount Everest. Mount Everest is located in Asia along the border of Nepal and the Tibet Autonomous Region of China. It is 60 million years old and is the tallest mountain in a chain of extremely high mountains called the Himalayas. The Himalayas and the Mount Everest are located near a fault between two moving plates, or piece of Earth's crust. One of the plates is moving under the other, forcing the top plate to rise and form mountains. Mount Everest continues to grow about 6 centimeters, 2.4 inches per year. Mount Everest towers 8,850 meters, 29,035 feet above sea level. That is almost as high as a passenger jet flies and almost 305 meters, 1,000 feet taller than K2, the world's second tallest mountain. Many people consider it the ultimate challenge to reach the tallest point on Earth. The climb to the top of Mount Everest is filled with dangers. Steep cliffs of rock and ice, deep crevices, and moving slabs of ice and snow stand between climbers and the summit. The air near the top of Mount Everest has far less oxygen than the air at lower elevations. This makes breathing very difficult, and climbers tire easily. Add to these factors the possibility of high winds and sub-zero temperatures, and the top of the world seems the most unreachable. Do you know? While Everest is now the peak's English name after Sir George Everest, who was Surveyor General of India under colonial rule. The Nepalese have long called it Sagarmatha, a Sanskrit word for peak of heaven, and the Tibetans called it Chomolungma, mother goddess of the world. Preparing for the climb. If you ever want to climb Mount Everest, you better make sure that you are in tip-top shape. The climb is very strenuous and will place huge demands on your body. Most climbers spend years getting in shape and practicing their skills by climbing other challenging mountains. Climbers also spend extra time at high elevations to acclimate to the thinner air. Climbing Mount Everest does not come cheap. Joining an expedition led by experienced climbers can cost as much as $65,000 US, not including personal gear, airfares, and insurance costs. The least expensive climb is estimated to be around $30,000. Even oxygen, as $300 a bottle, is very expensive, and each climber needs to take up to 20 bottles of oxygen. That's $6,000. You need $10,000 just to get a permit from the government of Nepal. To survive on the mountain, climbers need a huge amount of special clothing, climber gear, camping gear, and high altitude food, some of which is shown below. The climb. The safest times to climb Mount Everest are spring and fall, and May is the most popular month. A climb can take 2 months, so it must be carefully planned to avoid dangerous weather. During the winter, temperatures on Mount Everest can reach 50 minus degrees Celsius, minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit during the summer. Enormous storms dump meters of snow on the mountain. There are up to 15 routes to the top of Mount Everest, and most begin as base camp. Base camp lies almost 5,500 meters, 18,000 feet below the summit. The trek to base camp alone can take 10 days as base camp. Climbers must spend about a week resting and acclimating to the high altitude. Then climbers spend a few weeks hiking up to higher camps and back down. They must go back and forth to each camp several times before moving on to the next one. This gives them the chance to get used to working hard in the thin air. Once the climbers are settled at the highest camp, they watch the weather reports and look to the sky. It may take several tries over several days to reach the top, and the weather conditions must be favorable. Winds should be no more than 32 kilometers per hour, 20 minutes per hour, and the skies should be clear of snow. If the weather turns inhospitable, climbers may have to spend several days inside their tents. They may even have to return to base camp. It takes about 12 hours to reach the summit from the highest camp. The final trip usually starts around midnight so that climbers will be able to return before dark the next day. The last 100 meters, 300 feet, is the most difficult. It includes the Hillary Step, a cliff of ice and rock named after Sir Edmund Hillary. After climbers reach the top, they may spend an hour or so enjoying the view and the sensation of sitting on top of the world. Then they try to make their way down before sunset. Descent back to the highest camp usually takes around 4 hours. Not all climbers take their time getting to the top. In 2003, on separate occasions, two Sherpas climbed from base camp to the summit in under 13 hours. One of them, Pema Dorje, then returned in 2004 and climbed in a record 8 hours, 10 minutes. Sherpas can climb much faster than most other people because their bodies are adjusted to the high altitude. Sherpas. About 500 years ago, the first Sherpas crossed ever into Nepal from a region known as Tibet. They were originally herder and trader, but since settling under the shadow of Mount Everest, they have become known for their skill in guiding climbers up the mountain. Sherpas have adapted to the low oxygen climate of the Himalayas. They easily outperform people who come from lower altitude regions. Most climbers could not summit Everest without Sherpas, who act as guides and porters, carrying most of the gear. Sherpas sometimes carry more than their body weight, and it is not unusual for their loss to be more than 150 pounds. Do you know? Sherpa is an ethnic group of people, but Sherpas with a lowercase s are the guides of Everest expeditions and other mountain climbing attempts. Some Sherpa people became Sherpa guides, but not all Sherpa guides are Sherpa people. Strong, knowledgeable, and adaptable, Sherpas are synonymous with climbing Everest. Their understanding and skill provides a very important service to other climbers. They act as guides and consultants, carrying gear and prepare food. They are justifiably proud of their mountaineering heritage and legend. Do you know? Sherpa men are often named for the day of the week on which they were born or for a particular virtue. This explains why many Sherpas have the same first name. Most Sherpas are usually only one name. Use only one name. Common names include Tenzing, Negawan, Tashi, and Dorji. The first to the top. A team of the climbers from Great Britain was the first to attempt to reach the top of Mount Everest. They set out for the summit in 1821 but failed. In 1924, George Mallory, who tried in 1921, and Andrew Irvine attempted to reach the summit. They were last seen 6 years passed without anyone knowing their fate. In 1999, a group of climbers came across Mallory's body 305 meters, 1,000 feet below the summit. No one knows for sure if he made it to the top and was heading back down when he fell to his death, but it is doubtful that he succeeded. In 1953, another team set out to climb the world's tallest mountain. On May 29, 1953, Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay kept slowly up the frozen side of the mountain and became the first to reach the summit. It had taken them 7 weeks from the day they arrived at Everest Base Camp. Edmund Hillary was a beekeeper from New Zealand. He was made a knight after he climbed Everest, making the name Sir Edmund Hillary. And Tenzing Norgay was a Sherpa. Hillary and Norgay's achievement was celebrated around the world. Neither of these climbers saw fame or fortune, but they used their fame to benefit the people of Nepal. Sir Edmund Hillary established a foundation that has built hospitals, medical clinics, schools, and bridges. The foundation is also responsible for planting hundreds of thousands of trees in the Himalayas. Tenzing Norgay established the climbing school, and dozens of his students have reached the top of Mount Everest. Like Hillary, Norgay used his success to help improve educational opportunities for Sherpa children. Climbers. Many people thought that after Hillary and Norgay reached the top of Mount Everest, no one would want to do it again, but the opposite is true. Since the 1920s, thousands of people have attempted to reach the summit of Mount Everest. By 2010, over 3,300 had accomplished their goal. People of all ages come from all over the world to make the attempt. Climbers from Austria, Bosnia, China, Germany, Great Britain, Canada, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Russia, the United States, and many other countries have reached the top. There have been many new firsts over the year. In 1975, Junko Tabei from Japan became the first woman to scale the mountain. In 1978, the first person climbed to the summit without the aid of bottled oxygen. In 2000, a climber skied all the way down from the top. A year later, another climber snowboarded down from the summit. In 2001, Eric Wayham became the first blind person to reach the top. No one knows that future firsts there may be. A Sherpa by the name of Appa Sherpa has made it to the top of Mount Everest a record 20 times. He reached the summit for the 20th time in May 2010. Also in May 2010, 13-year-old Jordan Romero became the youngest to climb Everest, a record previously set in 2001 by a 15-year-old Sherpa. That same May 2010 weekend, over 200 climbers make it to the summit. The oldest person to reach the summit by May 2008 was a 76-year-old Nepalese climber. Do you know? World expeditionalist Peter Hillary, the son of Sir Edmund Hillary, followed in his father's footsteps. Peter has climbed to the top of Mount Everest twice, once in 1990 and again in 2002. Dangers. Nearly 10% of those who attempt to climb Mount Everest die. In 1996, a particularly fatal year for climbers, a single storm claimed 15 years. From 1922 to 2009, more than 220 climbers died climbing the mountain. The greatest cause of death on Mount Everest is avalanches. Many climbing routes follow glaciers, which are moving rivers of ice. As the ice flows slowly downhill, enormous chunks can break up and collapse. The moving ice also has huge cracks called crevasses, which can be hidden by snow. One misstep can send a climber plunging to their death. Climbers must be prepared to deal with the effects of an oxygen-poor environment. Even at height above just 3,000 meters, 10,000 feet, humans can experience nausea, headaches, confusion, loss of muscle coordination, and even hallucinations. At higher elevations, climbers can suffer from a life-threatening condition known as edema, which fluid collects into the brain or the lungs. The higher up the mountain a person climbs, the more difficult it becomes to breathe. At 5,500 meters, 18,000 feet, a climber is breathing only half the normal amount of oxygen. Near the summit, breathing capacity drops to 30% of normal. A climber's heart pounds and breathing is very difficult. Climbers must stop and rest even when putting on their boots. At high altitudes, the thin air blocks out fewer of the sun's harmful rays. Exposed skin can be severely sunburned, and without proper eye protection, the sun can burn a climber's eyes in a matter of minutes. Light reflecting off the white snow can cause a person to go temporarily blind. It is very important to wear eye protection even during cloudy periods. Winds on Mount Everest can blow at hurricane force more than 161 kilometers per hour, 100 minutes per hour. These frigid winds can freeze exposed skin in less than a minute. Frostbite is a serious danger, and some unfortunate climbers have had fingers, toes, and even their noses amputated. Dehydration is also a serious problem for climbers, so it is important to drink lots of water. Because of the low temperature, all water must be remelted before climbers can drink it. Overcrowding in Everest has become a dangerous issue, with so many people attempting to summit, as many as 354 on one day. People have died when their supplemental oxygen ran out while they waited in line for the summit. Trash has piled up. The climbers sometimes encounter bodies up and down the hill. Inexperience is a huge danger, since there is no experience requirement for who can climb the mountain. Novice climbers try to make the trek are unprepared and at greater risk of injury and death. Conclusion: climbing Mount Everest is not for the faint of heart. In fact, when you consider the danger posed by freezing temperatures, high winds, blinding snow, and lack of oxygen, to say nothing of avalanches, crevasses, and icy slopes, you wonder why anyone would do it. It is the thrill of adventure, the sense of accomplishment, and the feeling of being on top of the world that bring thousands of people to Mount Everest. Explore more. At the library, ask your librarian to help you find books on Mount Everest. You can find the biographies of famous climbers, real-life adventure stories about climbing expeditions, and even guides on how to start climbing mountains yourself. For more adventures, look up other subjects such as mountain climbing, Arctic exploration, and the Himalayas. You can also find many films, movies, and television specials about Mount Everest at your local library or video store. On the internet, A. In the address window, type www.google.com. B. In the search window, type the subject you are interested in, such as Mount Everest records, Edmund Hillary, or Sherpas. Click on Google search. C. Read the colored links. Click on one that looks interesting. D. When you want to explore more links, click on the back arrow at the top left. E. You can find you can even find websites that track Mount Everest climbers as they go up.